The morning wind clawed at the corners of Ethan Blake's tailored overcoat as he stepped out of his black SUV. Portland's sky was sullen, the kind of gray that pressed low over rooftops and lingered in silence. He moved quickly, opening the passenger door and reaching for the folded wheelchair. In the front seat, Lena sat with her eyes closed, hands resting in her lap, wrapped in soft wool gloves. Her once strong legs, now thin and unmoving, were tucked beneath a pale blue blanket. Ethan had done this 100 times, maybe more. Ever since the accident 2 years ago, his life had been sliced into rituals: car door, lift, carry, roll, wait. He used to manage billion-dollar portfolios with less structure than these mornings. But this routine, this was sacred. He braced his arms under her legs, careful not to jostle her spine, and lifted. She was so much lighter now, too light. Her body nestled into his chest like memory, but she didn't say a word. She rarely did during these transfers. Her silence wasn't cold, it was just tired. And Ethan understood that kind of tired. As he lowered her gently into the chair, adjusting the blanket around her lap, a small voice cut through the air behind them. "Sir, I can help your wife walk again." Ethan froze. The voice didn't tremble. It wasn't begging, just certain. He turned slowly. The boy was sitting on a flattened cereal box near the rehab center's entrance, knees drawn up, arms resting on a worn sketchbook. Maybe 9 or 10 years old. His jacket was at least 3 sizes too big. His sneakers, if you could still call them that, were held together with duct tape. A red knit cap sat crooked on his head, pulled low enough to shadow his eyes. But those eyes, they were steady, not hopeful, not desperate, just sure. Ethan narrowed his gaze. "Cool. What did you say?" The boy stood up, brushing crumbs from his jeans. "I said I can help her walk again." Ethan let out a short, dry breath. "Listen, kid, I don't want your money," the boy interrupted, calm as ever. That stopped Ethan mid-sentence. He wasn't used to being cut off, least of all by a child with dirt under his fingernails and a coat zipped with safety pins. Behind him, Lena stirred. Her voice was faint but clear. "What's going on?" "Nothing," Ethan said quickly, shooting the boy a glare. "Just some kid messing around." But the boy stepped forward again. "1 hour," he said. "That's all I ask. 1 hour to try." Ethan had heard every pitch you could imagine. Fake charities, wellness gurus, reporters pretending to be yoga instructors. But this? A child offering to fix what 2 years of top-tier physical therapy had failed to? It was laughable. He gripped the handles of the wheelchair. "We don't have time for this." The boy didn't argue. He just looked at Lena, then back at Ethan. "Okay," the boy said softly. "Maybe next time." Ethan pushed the chair forward, eyes straight ahead, willing his chest to unclench. He didn't look back. But later that night, as Lena lay curled beneath a blanket in their quiet living room, the words echoed louder than they had in the moment. "Sir, I can help your wife walk again." They'd both been silent for a while. The TV was on, but muted. Outside, the wind rustled dry leaves along the driveway. Ethan sat near the window, a glass of bourbon untouched in his hand, watching her study an old photo, one of them at Mount Hood 10 years ago before the accident, her legs in motion, her joy unrestrained. "You're staring," she said softly, without looking up. He blinked. "Just thinking." "About the boy?" He hesitated. "How did you know?" "I wasn't asleep," she said, smiling faintly. His voice reminded me of someone. He looked at her, brow raised. Someone who used to believe anything was possible. Ethan said nothing. She reached for the edge of her blanket, tugged it higher across her waist. What if he wasn't joking? "Lena, I'm serious. He's just a kid. And I'm just a dancer who can't feel her toes. So we're both long shots." She met his eyes. "You have nothing to lose," she whispered, "except the chance that this might not be nonsense." Ethan looked away, but he didn't argue. If you're still here, maybe you believe in second chances too. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Let's walk this journey together. Ethan didn't sleep well. He had told himself it was the wind, or maybe the bourbon. But truthfully, it was the boy's voice that kept him awake, quiet, clear, unshaken. It had followed him through dinner, through the silence afterward, even into the rhythm of Lena's breathing beside him at midnight. By morning, he'd convinced himself of one thing. If he saw that boy again, he'd deal with it, head on, shut it down before it spiraled into more false hope. So the next day, just after 10, Ethan pulled into a quiet corner of West Side Park. The trees were shedding gold and copper leaves onto the faded basketball court. Lena, bundled in a soft cream scarf, gave no indication of knowing where they were. "We're not going to the center today?" she asked as he wheeled her past the empty swing set. "Not exactly," Ethan muttered. "I just want to get something out of the way." She raised a brow but said nothing more. Aiden was already there, seated on the same flattened cereal box beneath a towering oak. His red knit cap was pulled low again, the same oversized coat hanging off his small frame. This time, a faded duffel bag sat beside him, and the towel beneath him looked freshly folded. He looked up as they approached. "Not surprised, just ready." "Thank you for coming," he said quietly. Ethan crossed his arms. "Let's be clear. We're here so you can say whatever you think you need to say, and then we move on. Understood?" Aiden didn't flinch. "Understood." Lena turned toward the boy, her voice gentler than her husband's. "What's your name?" "Aiden." She smiled faintly. "I'm Lena. This is Ethan." The boy nodded. "Nice to meet you, ma'am, sir." Ethan rolled his eyes. Aiden crouched beside his bag and pulled out a small cloth pouch. As he opened it, a faint, comforting scent filled the air, cinnamon and something floral. "This helps loosen the muscles," he explained. "It's just rice. My mom used to heat it in an old sock." He placed the warmed pack gently across Lena's thighs. She flinched. "Too hot?" Aiden asked quickly, pulling back. "No," Lena said after a moment. "Just strange. I haven't felt warmth there in a long time." Ethan's jaw tightened. Aiden gave a slow nod. "That's good," he said simply. "It means your body's listening." He waited a few seconds longer, then began rotating Lena's leg. Small, precise movements, nothing forced. His hands weren't clumsy, not the hands of a child guessing his way through. They were steady, careful, familiar. Ethan narrowed his eyes. "You really learned this from your mother?" he asked, arms still crossed. Aiden nodded, eyes focused. "She worked at a shelter. Helped folks who couldn't afford therapy, veterans mostly. I used to carry her bag. She taught me what she could." Lena was watching him now, her face open, not skeptical, but curious. "And what did she teach you exactly?" "That the body doesn't always need machines," Aiden replied softly. "Sometimes it just needs someone not to give up." The words hung in the air, heavier than expected. Ethan shifted his stance but said nothing. As Aiden continued his gentle movements, he asked Lena about her life, what music she loved, what meals she missed, what made her laugh. Her answers were hesitant at first, like someone dusting off old memories. But eventually, she began to open. "I used to make lemon pasta," she said, smiling faintly, "with roasted shrimp. Ethan tried once and nearly burned the kitchen down." Aiden chuckled. "Sounds like something I'd do." Lena laughed, a quiet, surprise sound that caught Ethan off guard. And then a moment later, Aiden tapped gently on her right knee. "Do you feel that?" Lena paused, her brow furrowed. "I think so. Pressure, not pain, just a kind of push." "That's good," Aiden said, nodding. "That means your nerves are still talking." Ethan stepped forward. "She sometimes says that in her sessions too." "But those sessions are in a clinic," Aiden said, not unkindly. "With wires and machines and beeping sounds. This is different. This is sun and air. And someone who believes in her." Ethan didn't respond. They continued for another 30 minutes. Aiden showed Lena how to flex her ankle gently, then to imagine sending signals from her hip down to her toes, like sending a letter down a long hallway. There was no movement, but there was focus, will, presence. "I'll show you again next week," Aiden said as he packed up his things. "Your muscles still remember. We just have to help them speak up." Ethan cleared his throat. "We're not making promises here." "I'm not either," Aiden replied. "I'm just trying." He stood, zipped his bag and backed away. No grand gestures. No ego. Lena looked at Ethan. "We're coming next week." He didn't answer immediately. Then, "All right." As they wheeled back to the car, Ethan cast one last glance over his shoulder. Aiden was already sitting again, sketchpad on his knees, quietly drawing as if nothing extraordinary had happened. That night, Lena sat near the fireplace, wrapped in a blanket, her eyes glowing from something deeper than warmth. "I want to keep going," she said softly. Ethan didn't respond right away. He was staring at the embers, hands resting on his knees. She turned toward him. "Do you think I'm crazy?" He looked at her, really looked. "No," he said. "I think maybe we've both stopped believing anything could change." Lena gave a tired smile. "Then maybe that's what needs to change first." He sat beside her, watching the flames crackle. And for the first time in months, maybe longer, Ethan Blake didn't feel entirely numb. Something had cracked open, not belief, not yet, but maybe, just maybe, possibility. They kept coming back. Every Sunday morning, without fail, Ethan would pull up the SUV near the old basketball court at Westside Park. And every time, Aiden was already there, wrapped in the same coat, that red knit cap tugged low, waiting with his towel, rice pack, and sketch pad. He never called it therapy. He never tried to sell them anything. He just showed up, as if he belonged there all along. After the third visit, Ethan began bringing him food. A sandwich, an apple, sometimes a hot drink if the air was especially sharp. Aiden never asked for it, and he never said much when Ethan handed it over, just a quiet, steady thank you, as if the gesture wasn't unusual at all. Lena noticed it first. "You've softened," she said one morning as Ethan passed Aiden a paper bag with warm oatmeal and a boiled egg. Ethan gave a dry chuckle. "You think?" "You're still skeptical," she added, "but now you're skeptical. With snacks." That day, Aiden introduced something new. He called it body mapping. He asked Lena to close her eyes and imagine the journey from her hip to her toes like a road under construction, blocked in places but not erased. He had her breathe deeply, picture warmth moving through her limbs like sunlight through curtains. It was abstract, strange even, but Lena listened. Not because she believed it would work, but because no one else had ever spoken to her legs like they still mattered. "You're teaching her to believe again," Ethan murmured one afternoon as Aiden packed up. Aiden shrugged. "She already knows how. I'm just reminding her." One morning, after weeks of effort, Lena blinked hard and whispered, "I think I felt something." Aiden leaned forward. "Where?" "My big toe," she said. "Just a twitch." Ethan leaned in. "Was it real?" Lena nodded, tears already forming. "I'm not imagining it this time." Aiden didn't celebrate. He just smiled, that quiet smile of his, the one that said we're getting somewhere. But hope is a tricky thing. It can rise like a balloon and just as easily deflate with one sharp doubt. The following Sunday, Ethan parked in their usual spot, but Lena didn't move. He circled the SUV and opened her door. "You okay?" She didn't look at him. Her hands were in her lap, clenched too tightly. "I'm not doing this today," she said. "What happened?" "I tried this morning, before you woke up. I warmed my legs, I visualized the whole thing, just like Aiden taught me. I even played music." Her voice trembled. "But there was nothing, no twitch, no warmth, nothing." Ethan knelt beside her. "It's just one bad day." "No," she snapped. "It's every day we don't talk about. Every day I fake a smile when my legs feel like stone." Across the lot, Aiden had already spotted them. He walked toward the car, towel in hand. When he reached the door, he didn't try to coax her out. He just crouched beside the car and rested on his heels. "I know that feeling," he said softly. Lena looked up, surprised. "I used to wake up in a shelter next to my mom," Aiden continued, voice low and even. "She'd try to hide her cough, try to smile like everything was okay. But one morning, she couldn't open her eyes. And I screamed. Because I'd done everything right, wrapped her up, found her soup, kept her warm, and still it wasn't enough." He looked down at the pavement. "If I stop trying," he whispered, "then the part of me that remembers her dies too." Ethan felt something shift in his chest, something that had been tightly guarded. The boy wasn't pleading. He wasn't posturing. He was just honest. Lena looked at Aiden for a long time, then she nodded. "Okay," she said softly. "Let's try again." That day, the session was quieter. Aiden didn't introduce new exercises. He simply returned to the basics: warmth, gentle touch, breath. Ethan stayed close, not pacing, not distracted. Present, attentive. The next Sunday, Lena took her first step. It happened just past noon. Aiden had looped a soft band under her knees. Ethan held one end, Aiden the other. Together, they counted. 1, 2, 3. And Lena lifted her knees. Not high, not steady, but they lifted. Then, with effort, she placed one foot in front of the other and let it drop. Ethan's voice caught. "You did that." Lena's face was wet with tears. "I did that." Aiden nodded quietly. "Told you. The body remembers." From a nearby bench, someone clapped. Ethan turned, surprised. A woman sat watching, her daughter beside her in a wheelchair. Another family lingered under a tree, an older man holding the hand of a boy with leg braces. At least 4 families now visited the park each week around the same time. None spoke much. They just watched. At first, Ethan thought it was coincidence, but then he noticed them watching Aiden more than Lena, as if waiting for something, hoping for something. "Aiden," he asked one day, "do you know those people?" The boy shook his head. "Not really. But I think they know someone who needed hope. Like we did," Lena whispered. That next Sunday, Lena offered her session to a young girl with dark curls and a nervous smile. Aiden showed her mother how to place the warm rice pack on the girl's knees. He demonstrated the tapping motion to test for reflex, the way to speak gently but clearly. Then he moved to another family, a boy with a walker, explaining how to use light resistance and encouragement without pressure. Lena sat in her wheelchair, watching everything unfold. She wasn't upset, she was beaming. Ethan stood behind her, hands in his pockets, silent for a long time. "He's helping them," Lena said. Ethan nodded. "And he's not asking for anything." Afterward, Aiden returned to their bench. "Sorry for missing your session," he said. Lena shook her head. "You didn't miss anything. You multiplied it." Aiden looked down. "They needed it." "You gave them something their doctors couldn't," she said. "Hope." Ethan looked at the boy, not as a mystery anymore, not even as a helper, but as someone who had quietly changed the fabric of their lives. And now, maybe others too. Later that afternoon, back at home, Ethan finally asked the question that had been circling in his mind for weeks. "Where do you sleep, Aiden?" The boy hesitated. "Here and there." "Do you have family?" "Not anymore." Ethan exhaled slowly. "You ever think about going back to school?" Aiden looked uncertain. "I don't know if I'd be any good at it." "You're good at people," Ethan said. "That's rarer than knowing numbers." Aiden gave a shy nod. "You helped Lena walk," Ethan added. "That's more than any professional has done in 2 years." "She did the walking," Aiden said. "I just reminded her she could." That night, as Ethan stood at the sink rinsing dishes, Lena sat beside the fireplace humming an old ballet piece. Aiden sketched at the kitchen table, a cup of cocoa steaming beside him. Ethan turned and watched them both for a long moment. Then, under his breath, he said, "This boy's changing everything." Lena didn't look up. "He already has." By the 8th Sunday, the bench under the oak tree wasn't just a quiet place anymore. It had become something more, an unspoken gathering point. The old basketball court, once cracked and abandoned, now held families who didn't know each other by name, but recognized each other by the look in their eyes. Hope. Still fragile, but growing. 5 families now came regularly. Some brought chairs, some blankets. There was always a thermos being passed around. A nurse from the community clinic even stopped by once, not to offer advice, but simply to watch. The mood wasn't one of celebration. It was reverence, like something sacred was unfolding under rust-colored leaves. Aiden never changed, still in his duct-tape sneakers and red knit cap, still arriving early with the towel folded just so, his sketchpad tucked under his arm. He greeted each family with the same quiet nod, the same gentle tone. He never rushed, never promised anything, just asked for 1 hour. That Sunday, Lena insisted he start with the others. "We've had 8 weeks, she said, her voice light. "Let's give someone else their first." Ethan glanced at her. "Are you sure?" She smiled, motioning toward the little girl with the stroke, the one with dark curls and eyes that darted nervously every time someone looked her way. "She needs it more than I do today." So Aiden went to her first. He knelt in front of her gently, introduced himself again, and then turned to her parents. "I'll show you how to help her stretch the back of her knee," he explained. "That's where the signal sometimes gets stuck." The mother blinked, then nodded. The father looked away briefly, his lips pressed tight, like he didn't dare believe what might be possible. Aiden worked with them patiently, just like he'd worked with Lena. He explained how to watch for subtle cues, how to touch without overcorrecting, how to keep your voice steady even when your heart is breaking. Next was the boy with the walker. Aiden adjusted the straps himself, then showed the boy's grandfather how to place resistance bands carefully around the ankles. The boy giggled when Aiden made up names for each stretch: the flamingo, the rocket ship, the sneaky spider. And all the while, Lena watched from a distance with a pride that ran deeper than words. Ethan stood behind her, arms folded. "He's helping more people than we ever imagined," he said quietly. Lena nodded. "He's doing what no one else has." Later, as the sun dropped behind the tree line and families began packing up, Aiden returned to the bench, tired but focused, pulling his sketch pad back into his lap. His hands moved quickly. He was drawing feet again, toes pointed, knees lifted, movement frozen in charcoal. Ethan walked over and sat beside him. "You ever get tired?" Aiden shrugged. "Not really." Ethan studied the boy's hands, steady, cracked, a bit red from the chill. "Where do you go when you leave here?" Aiden hesitated. "Bus depot mostly," he said. "There's a corner near the vending machines. Not too cold if you curl up right." Ethan's face darkened. "And you heat your rice packs." "There's a gas station 2 blocks up," Aiden said simply. "The guy lets me use the microwave if I don't make a mess." Ethan looked away, his jaw tight. "How long have you been doing that?" Aiden shrugged again. "Since Mom passed, last winter." Lena had joined them now, wheeling herself up slowly. "Where did you learn how to do all this?" she asked softly. "She taught me," Aiden said, eyes still on his sketch pad. "She said people's bodies don't always need fixing. Sometimes they just need someone to sit with them while they try." Lena reached out and placed her hand over his. "You're more than just someone sitting with us, Aiden." He didn't say anything, but he didn't pull away either. Ethan cleared his throat. "You shouldn't be sleeping at a depot." "It's fine," Aiden said quickly. "I've got a blanket, some extra socks." "No," Ethan said more firmly now. "It's not fine." He stood up, brushing leaves from his coat. "You're coming home with us." Aiden blinked. "What?" "I'm not asking," Ethan added. "You've been giving us more than any therapist, any doctor, any expert ever could. It's time someone gave something back." Aiden hesitated. "But I don't want charity." Lena smiled. "This isn't charity, sweetheart. It's family." That night, Aiden stepped into their home for the first time. It was quiet inside, warm. The kind of warmth that came not just from heat, but from being expected. Ethan showed him to the guest room, modest but clean. A twin bed, soft blankets, a small desk near the window. Aiden stood at the threshold like he didn't quite believe it was real. "You can stay as long as you need," Ethan said. "No questions, no pressure." Aiden looked up at him, eyes wide, voice barely above a whisper. "Thanks." Later that evening, Lena sat in the kitchen watching the boy stir sugar into his tea with the kind of concentration adults often forget to have. The silence between them was full, but not empty. "You're going to help a lot of people," she said gently. Aiden looked at her. "You already have," she added. He nodded, then whispered, "Healing didn't come from a lab coat. It came from someone who didn't give up." Ethan leaned against the counter, arms crossed, eyes soft. "You're that someone." Aiden smiled faintly. So was she. He didn't have a license. He didn't have a clinic. He didn't have a permanent address. But in just 8 weeks, he had given movement back to a woman told she'd never stand again, and hope to families who had nearly given up. That was the twist no one saw coming. The 9th Sunday arrived under a sky that seemed to hold its breath. The late autumn air was cool but not sharp, and the leaves had mostly fallen now, carpeting the edges of Westside Park in shades of rust and gold. Lena wore boots, not the orthopedic ones from the clinic, not house slippers or compression socks, but real boots, soft brown leather, laced to her ankles. The same pair she'd tucked away after the accident, the ones she'd once worn on stage during her last modern ballet showcase. That was over 2 years ago. Now, she was wearing them again. She sat still in her chair as Aiden adjusted the towel beneath her feet. Ethan stood just behind her, hands steady, eyes focused but unreadable. There were no onlookers today, not because they hadn't come, but because they'd quietly stepped back, sensing the moment belonged to someone else. "You ready?" Aiden asked gently. Lena gave a small nod. "I think I am." Aiden placed one hand on her knee, the other beneath her elbow. Ethan moved to her other side. Together, they supported her as she braced her hands against the armrests and slowly leaned forward. Her breathing quickened, her arms trembled, but her eyes stayed forward. "1, 2, 3, Aiden whispered. Lena pushed, and then slowly, with effort that rippled through every muscle in her frame, she rose, shaky, unbalanced, but upright. Her boots met the pavement squarely, heels grounded in something far deeper than soil. "I'm standing," she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. Ethan's breath caught. He didn't dare move. Aiden nodded, barely smiling. "Told you," he murmured. "Your body remembers." She took a step. Just one at first, then another. The third was more of a shift than a stride, and her knees buckled beneath her, but Ethan caught her before she fell. He wrapped his arms around her as she clung to him, laughing and crying all at once. "You did it," he whispered, his voice cracking. "No," she said breathlessly. "We did." Aiden stood just a few feet away, still as a statue, eyes reflecting the full weight of the moment. He didn't cheer, didn't cry. He just let it be what it was, an ending, a beginning, and a quiet answer to every doubt. That night back at the house, the air smelled faintly of cinnamon and roasted garlic. Lena was upstairs resting, her boots placed carefully beside the bed, as if they'd run a marathon. Ethan sat across from Aiden at the kitchen table. The boy was sketching again, a quiet concentration furrowed across his brow. On the page, the outline of a foot, mid-step, toes lifted, muscles engaged. Ethan cleared his throat. "You ever think about becoming a physical therapist?" Aiden didn't look up. "Not really." "You'd be good at it." Aiden shrugged, still drawing. "I don't want to fix people. I just want them to feel what my mom made others feel." Ethan leaned back in his chair, arms folded. "And what was that?" Aiden paused, then said, "That they mattered, even when they were broken." Ethan nodded slowly, letting that sink in. The next morning, Lena took another step. This time in the hallway, her hand gliding along the wall for balance. No one was watching except Aiden, who happened to glance up from his cereal just as she passed. She didn't say anything, didn't need to. Aiden returned to his sketching, but a smile lingered. Later that day, Ethan walked into the kitchen and paused at the sight. Lena humming by the window, Aiden bent over his pad, pencil tapping lightly. The scene felt ordinary, but it wasn't. It was a new kind of normal. He leaned on the counter and said, "You know, next time she dances, she's going to need a partner." Aiden looked up. "Then I better keep practicing," he said with a grin. And in that moment, Ethan saw something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. Future. Not a distant one, not a miraculous one, but one built day by day, step by step, with small movements and stubborn belief. Not every hero wears a white coat. Some come in duct-taped sneakers and carry nothing but faith in a warm rice pack. Some don't raise their voices, but their presence alone speaks volumes. And sometimes, the ones we overlook, the ones who sit quietly in corners with nothing but kindness to offer, end up changing everything. Some heroes don't wear white coats or uniforms. Some come with taped-up shoes and carry only belief. And that's more than enough. If this story touched your heart, leave a comment, share it with someone you love, and always remember, sometimes the quietest people carry the loudest hope.